Welcome to Election Watch. I'm Kit Nascimento. I'm your host. This is a program of the Private Sector Commission, and I have with me in the studio 5 of the most prominent members of the Private Sector Commission, and I'm going to introduce them to you now. Ramesh Dukku. Ramesh is the chairman of the Private Sector Commission. Next to Ramesh is Mr. Jerry Gavaya, who is the chairman of the Governance and Security Committee of the Private Sector Commission. Also, Eon Caesar. Eon is the chairman of the Government and Security Commission of the Chamber of Commerce, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce. Clinton Williams, next to Eon, who is the president of the Guyana Manufacturing Services Association, GMSA. And then finally we have Norman McLean, to my immediate right, who is the president of the Guyana Association of the Private Security Organization. We all care that we have an orderly and a well-conducted election. And the Election Commission, the Private Sector Commission, is concerned that every citizen makes his commitment towards that end. And I'm going to start off with asking the chairman to address us.
Thank you, Kit. As we know, the Private Sector Commission has a history of looking on, observing, and intervening sometimes when necessary with all our political leaders over the years. That has been a subcommittee led by Jerry that has really contributed meaningfully to our maturing at elections time. I must say that the campaigning so far has been of some concern to us. We have noted the high temperature at campaign rallies, and we have spoken out about those. We have gotten results from those parties that we have spoken to, and we have asked to tone down various remarks, etc. The reason for this is that campaign rallies, we tend to lose ourselves, and we may, without knowing it, incite the public, and that can provide us with an environment that may be dangerous in the future. So we want to urge all of our political parties to continue to make the efforts to be responsible campaigners. I have seen a very high level of campaigning. Various mechanisms that weren't in place in previous elections are now here. I want to urge all the political parties to exercise tolerance for each other's campaigns and allow others to campaign freely, regardless of where the area is. Guyana belongs to all of us, and all of us have the potential to be a leader in our country. We must also respect each other's meetings. I believe that sometimes if we visit the meetings of our competitors, we provide a platform for issues getting out of hand. I want to stop there, Kit, and perhaps hand this over back to you.
Well, Jerry, obviously elections are competitive, highly competitive, but they shouldn't be confrontational, should they?
Absolutely not. But Kit, I also want to say to you that I have said over and over, you know, there was a time in Guyana's history when the private sector was marginalized and the governance and management of our country was left to the politicians. And we have, I think, many years ago put politicians on notice that that is never going to be the case again. The private sector, we really do have a lot of stake, a lot of investment, a lot of employees, a lot of citizens of this country. Their well-being is our concern, and no longer are we ever going to sit by the sideline and allow just politicians to run the affairs of Guyana. We are going to get involved, and we were doing that. And to the extent that we have continuously and regularly in the last 5 or 6 years been constantly meeting with all stakeholders in Guyana, whether it's the political parties, GCOM, the security forces, the main city council, other civil society organizations, all to do with the well-being of Guyana. Particularly in terms of the preparation for elections, we have been meeting on a regular basis with the political parties and GCOM and our sense and level of confidence in GCOM is very high. We are very happy to know that there's no individual party that controls the election machinery in Guyana, and that GCOM is as an independent body run by a chairman and his staff and the board of GCOM, an organization and an establishment that we as the Private Sector Commission have a lot of confidence in supporting and confidence in. Now, to say that is to say this to you, Kit, that we have actually been very concerned about public statements by people. For example, we read an article in the Kaieteur News a few days ago saying that the PPP is planning to rig the elections. Now, leaders, the private sector leaders and the stakeholders and the leaders we have been talking to know that that is impossible, that there's no one political party that controls the machinery to interfere and rig our national and regional elections. And that is a very reckless and mischievous statement to be published in any newspapers or any media house. And I find that very dangerous. We've also had people, for example, getting on platforms and criticizing and undermining the credibility and neutrality of the observers, the foreign observers and local observers. Well, I want to say to you that is also concerning to us, because those observers, first of all, the international observers are visitors to our country. We have been known to be a country of tremendous hospitality. I think it's extremely discourteous for people we haven't met to start to condemn them. And then as well, I believe, to create the mischief in the minds of people who will question the pronouncement by the observers, by questioning the credibility of those people. And a lot of us around here now are, in fact, accredited observers by GCOM. But just to finish, to say to you that we in the Private Sector Commission have a tremendous amount of confidence in the credibility and integrity of GCOM. And we look forward to working with GCOM in pulling off this fair and free elections like we saw in 2006.
Jan, as chairman of the Government and Security Committee of the Chamber of Commerce, which speaks really for the great majority, the Georgetown Chamber, of business houses in Georgetown, what is your approach to the whole essential need for a well-conducted, peaceful election?
What we have been doing is insisting that our members get their staff and family members to, first of all, register and ensure that they have their national identification cards and so on, and they actually go out and vote. Because, as you know, the business community always has comments and want to be a part of certain decisions that will affect businesses. So we also urge them to come out and vote. The Chamber of Commerce would like to see a peaceful, free and fair elections. We feel that it is your democratic right to vote for whichever party of your choice without any fear of being victimized. As you know, corporate Guyana has done well in recent years, and we feel that Guyana is so poised to do greater things. So at the end of elections come the 28th of November, we're hoping that Guyana can move forward in a positive manner to do better things for our country.
Clinton, thank you, Ian. Talk a bit about the image of Guyana and how important it is to protect that image for the development of our whole business community from a peaceful election.
Kit, I'm glad that you did report on that particular issue. In fact, you'll recall that during the initial phases of this election process, the GMSA initiated a process whereby all three of the major political parties were invited to talk to us. The intention of that process was to ensure that all those inflammatory remarks and whatnot that hitherto characterized the process would have been minimized. And so you would have had a process leading up to the elections that is more objective, for want of a better word. I want to share the view at this instance that that generally has been the case. there's been instances, I mean, where people went overboard, and it's normal. People get heated up and they make statements that normally would don't make normally. But I think that the image for foreign direct investment and investors generally is one that would be endangered if to some extent they have the view that our political culture is one that is not one of compromise, of understanding, and of decency, of transparency, and whatever. And so we believe that we have helped somewhat in the process by ensuring that that particular, or those issues that hitherto characterize the process has been minimized on this occasion and will continue to be. My concern, though, Kit, is that normally in the case of Ghanaian elections, not very much happens prior to the elections. In fact, most of the whatever that has occurred is normally post-election. And post in the sense that immediately after, in some instances. And it will be imperative that the process of post-election issues, which are the critical issue, who have won, was the process considered to be transparent? Was it considered to be good in the interest of all of the players? Now, what could happen if that process takes too long is that the festering of innuendos and all of that could well result in serious issues that generally would make a farce of what in fact has led to this very good process that we are now experiencing. And so I want to urge GECOM to ensure that all the mechanisms that are currently available, you know, these are days of ICT, and information technology is one. In fact, even on one election these days, you see, I would call it the Obama type activity surfacing in terms of internet and so on. So I would want to suggest to GECOM that they try and minimize that time lag between the actual completion of the voting and the announcement of the results.
Well, I'm going to get Jerry to comment on that in a few moments, just a few seconds.
Yes.
We will come back to that, Jerry.
But I thought,
Sure, because I really wanted to address it to you because it's something to be actually discussed today at length. Because, first of all, by law.
First of all, Jerry, let me apologize to our listeners. As a seasoned broadcaster, I apologize for not having turned off this foul instrument. So please accept my apologies. Yes, Jerry.
Yes, Kit. First of all, because our elections are not IT driven, and I think people must understand that. And second of all, because of the geographic spread of our country, and GECOM depends on the hard copy of the statements of poll and the consolidated voting documentation.
Results.
It needs to come physically to GECOM office. And second of all, there is, I heard people saying that by the night of elections, by the next day, early we should be getting results. And that is misinformation.
Well, that's a virtual impossibility.
It isn't, and people need to understand that. At least there's a minimum of 3 days. Because let me first of all say to you, by law, it is D-Day plus 12 plus 1.
Right.
So because between that time, even though the counting would have finished at the place of poll, it gives each political party the opportunity in that period to do a reconciliation if they want to. So that the statement of poll, even though it might have been done the night, is still not an authenticated document until that legal period have passed. And then we still have to then airlift the statements of poll coming out of the far-flung areas of Guyana, Conishin, down in the south of Guyana, to Mabaruma, to Skelland, to Paramakatoy in the mountains, Monkey Mountain, Parima. We have to bring those documents to the city, into the GECOM office. And then when it still gets to GECOM, it still have an entire scrutiny system where the political parties are sitting, they're in GECOM, and each one of them are scrutinizing those documents before it goes in to the GECOM database system.
So the important thing really is then that there is a minimum time factor before the election results can be officially declared.
Yes.
And therefore, our appeal, your appeal, I assume, is to both the political parties and indeed to the media to exercise sufficient patience, not to mislead the population, and to simply wait for GECOM to say the word.
In fact, I think the private sector is trying to urge the political leaders that at the end of poll on that day, on Monday the 28th, we are urging them to come out and make a public statement about calling for patience and about the process and respecting the results.
Well, we're talking to the nation. So, Norman, I want to bring you in here. The Private Sector Commission is working with the EAB. And indeed, I believe we are setting up, under your direction, a monitoring room and committee to help manage this process and help the nation manage this.
Let me say, Kit, the gentlemen you see here have been very busy today. We had a meeting with the EAB. We had a meeting with GCOM. We had our own meeting with the PPP Civic. And we have met the other parties, and we wanted to have an additional meeting with APNU, and so that we could, when we went to GCOM, we should have had a sort of collection of ideas, what were some of the issues facing the electorate. But it's very important, I share this, because 5,000 copies of this we received today, which are going to be shared.
You can hold it up with the camera.
Yes, please. And this one, and this was given to us by GCOM. It's a very well put together document, and it's been in the telephone directory as well. And it's important for people to understand how they're going to vote, because even one of our members here had some difficulty in going to see whether his name was there and where his polling station was. This is very, very critical at this time. I want to say that we met with these people, and we are satisfied that the GCOM has done all that it can do and is doing. We went and had a look at the ballot boxes. We looked at some of the problems which were faced today with the polling for discipline services. There were some minor issues, but nothing that people would be concerned about. Like Clinton, I am concerned about post the poll. And that's why we are asking for the leaders to say to the nation, look, the election is gone, it's gone well, or whatever your view is, and let us wait for the results to come, because there is some agitation, some feeling that, look, we're going to get the results by the night or the next day. It is not possible. So let's get all worked up and agitated because we haven't gotten results as we are hearing or expecting. So let's be patient, and there must be, as I indicated, a winner and a loser. And what we hope is that the winner would be magnanimous in his victory, and the loser will be responsible. And we have at least 3 or 4 observer groups: the Commonwealth Secretariat and CARICOM, and OAS as well. And when we heard from Dr. Serge Bali, the quality of the persons coming are people with great experience in elections from New Zealand and all around, and they are going to pronounce on our elections.
So, Ramesh, the Private Sector Commission stands by fully and endorses the arrangements in place for a free and fair election.
Yeah, Kit, let me say, and before I go on to that, let me say that one of the observers who's right here with us in Guyana from USAID, I think is a former head of the Elections Commission
in Canada.
Right, so we need to reiterate that the quality of these observers are essentially world class. And we ourselves have had experience in this. We have just been accredited as observers. And we are going to learn from the foreign observers as well as putting our lot. We do have a lot of faith in GCOM, Kit. As an institution called the Private Sector Commission, we have faith in GCOM. The structure of GCOM, their professional staff, what we saw today is a group of professionals dealing with issues. Before we could have made 2 complaints to them, they already took the complaint and corrected it. Today, for example, there was a political party playing music outside of a polling station, and it came to our attention, and immediately the matter was corrected by that political party. So we are playing our role as observers as well, and I want to say that We have also gone a very far way by contribution from our membership. We've set up our operations room in the Private Sector Commission. We will have a full complement of election supervisors and staff that is accredited by GCOM under the umbrella of the Commission to be able to monitor the elections in a proper way. We had more commitments today, and we were waiting on a few other companies to put in their supervisory staff and vehicles, etc., etc.
And I believe well, I was there myself. We met with the Commissioner of Police also.
Yes.
And,
and that meeting
are we
went
reasonably
very
satisfied that things
I
are in
believe,
place?
for me, as chairman of the commission, I left there feeling very satisfied that the commissioner also is taking a very professional approach to his job. We didn't only meet with the commissioner, we met with his
All his divisional
entire-
commanders
all
as
of
well.
his senior
Yes,
officers
all
were
of his
present,
divisional
yes.
commanders were there to answer questions about preparedness, and the commissioner generally, to me, looks very organized, and his staff, who we have the greatest amount of respect for, and their own professionalism was on display for us. Every time we asked a question, they were able to answer us with some amount of professionalism. So we left that meeting, Kit, feeling extremely happy
Confident.
and confident.
Well, you
about
know,
the police.
Norman said they're winners and losers, and of course they are in an election. But aren't we all winners?
country has to win.
Aren't we all winners? If the country, and I'd invite you to comment on this, aren't we all winners if at the end of the day we accept the results of the elections and we move forward with whichever government has been elected, and the nation is fully respected internationally? That way we're all winners, are we not?
Because that I think reinforces the point that any time anybody interrupts a political campaign meeting, they're actually interrupting our democracy, our democracy at work. And like you were saying, I think it's this whole process is good for Guyana, is good for business, is good for the future of Guyana, and any individual person, individually or collectively, that in any way, shape, or form interrupts this democratic process and the campaigning of any political party, they're in fact damaging the image of Guyana, and all of us should be extremely concerned about any individual that do it individually or collectively. And I think it's a very important issue for us to be concerned about.
Ian, maybe you might want to jump in here, or any one of you.
Let me
ask you a specific question. Do you consider it was thoroughly irresponsible at this point in time for the media even to publish an accusation, an unfounded accusation,
I absolutely, Kit.
that the elections were
And
rigged?
I said to Adam Harris, I told Adam, I said to him, I think it was irresponsible. And I said that to him privately.
Well, now you're
You're
public.
saying it publicly, you know.
No. In the hope that he will in the future look at what, is done. I believe it can create some incidents.
Freedom of expression, censorship.
No, but I also want to refer to the girls' hockey team. What they're called, Ian?
Jaguar.
Oh, it's the ladies' national hockey
Ladies
team.
National Hockey Team, and their message that was sponsored by the Georgian Chamber of Commerce. And it was a team message, and that is how it ended. We all win.
Well, we're coming close to the end of this discussion, so quickly around the table, what's our message, fundamentally? Norman, beginning with you.
That we want to establish a tradition of peaceful, free and fair elections, and this gives us an opportunity as a people in this what we call our green land of Guyana to do just that, right?
Okay.
So by all means cast your vote, exercise your democratic right, but do so peacefully and in a responsible manner.
We are living in a world where investment funding is very difficult and competitive, and our image pre and post election must demonstrate that capability so we can get people to come and invest, get jobs to people, and move the country forward.
Ian, you've been quiet for a while.
To reiterate what Norman has said, free and fair elections and take Guyana forward in a positive manner. But I want to share two things before we left. Again, to reiterate what Jerry was saying, the legal time is E-Day +1 +12. So legally, GCOM cannot pronounce until that legal period has elapsed. And secondly, we haven't elaborated on it a lot, but our operations center that the PSC is setting up, we're going to very soon publish our numbers so the various stakeholders could get in contact with us.
Jerry,
Kit, even today,
final word.
even today, we see people start to make allegations of rigging today, and they're using misinformation. The fact remains that GCOM never intended for the casting of the vote today to be identified as security forces vote. And so that is why the ballots are not so identified. But there are already statements on the internet claiming that because these ballots were not identified, that it's a part of a rigging process, and that is irresponsible.
Ramesh.
Finally, kids, I would just like to say that peace always brings prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.